Hey everybody, and welcome back to the EO Network Podcast. Your host, Adrian Matt, here live, and we're getting set for perhaps maybe the most controversial election happening next Tuesday. In fact, I just realized this is the final episode before we officially get our new president. Either it's going to be none other than the very controversial Donald Trump or the very sensational Kamala Harris. Before I get to that, though, please please help me in welcoming none other than Pug Tato joining me right now. Welcome, Pug.
Thank you. This is exciting. But I haven't been on a politics podcast yet, so let's see. I gotta be careful. Don't want to get canceled or nothing.
Well, I understand, Pug, that you've been very, very close. You've been monitoring this entire political stance between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Now, I don't want to get too much involved in this, right? I mean, this podcast episode is going to be very much short because we've talked a lot, and we as an EO Network podcast, that is, have talked a lot about politics. And of course, for the most part, this entire channel is not about that, but it is a very important episode due to the fact that this is the final episode before we get to see a new president. With that said, why do you believe, and I know, and for all those who don't know, obviously, Pug, and this is obviously free to confirm, you do support Kamala Harris over Trump.
That is true, yes.
Now, currently the polls are quite similar. We understand that Kamala Harris at this moment, right here, right now, as of the recording, she is leading the polls, not by much, however, but nonetheless, she is still leading the poll. With that being said, I got to ask you, do you still see Kamala Harris actually winning next Tuesday?
I mean, with all the celebrity endorsements and all their very loyal fans, I would say so. Because it's not like Elon Musk has a fan base that they're gonna see Elon voting Trump and be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna go vote for Trump. But like Taylor Swift, Billie Eilish, I see her fans getting influenced in voting for Kamala, so I think she might be able to get the winner.
And let's not forget also one of the idiotic comedics got the chance to speak
Yes,
in
yes.
behalf of Donald Trump. And I understand that he made a very, very sly comment about Puerto Rico and even calling it, quote, trash. And that could have perhaps maybe turned off a lot of the people who are from Puerto Rico, who may have families in Puerto Rico, whatever the case may be, to really go to the voting sessions and to basically vote for Kamala Harris instead.
I know not a lot of Hispanics are big fans of Trump, and
Yep.
because he's not a big fan of Hispanics. So, but what do you say to the arguments that Trump would handle the border better?
I got to tell you, in fact, not a lot of people know this either. Well, maybe some people might know this, but a lot of people aren't really talking about this. Did you know? First off, to answer your question, I don't think he would do anything better, if we're being honest. First of all, are people forgetting that back in 2016, this is something that
Can I
Trump
add a
would
statement?
always talk and talk and talk about? Is this something that many people are forgetting? That whenever he was running for president back in 2016 and eventually became the president, he was saying that he would fix the border crisis, he would fix it, fix it, fix it. And what happened? Nothing happened. And then in came Biden. Biden, of course, was able to come in, and he actually did at least something, from what I understand. But I'm also being told right now that one of our EON Network members, TTV, one of the younger members, is joining me right now. TTV, go ahead and include your audio if you haven't done so. You said that you wanted to include a statement.
Yep.
You can include that statement in just a minute. I just want to get to the point I was trying to make, though, Pug, to answer your question as well. Donald Trump is probably going to do nothing, just like he did the first time. And then secondly, let's not forget that Kamala Harris, the Democrats in general, did try to pass a bill that would have helped fix the situation dealing with the border. Who was the one that dropped it, though? By design, Donald Trump. The reason behind that is because he wanted to use that as an excuse to, well, try to get an excuse in there to get reelected. And there's a lot more to it, but we'll go ahead and throw it over to Mr. TTV. You have something to say?
Yep. And also, the reason why some people are voting for Kamala Harris instead of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump only cares about the billionaires and the millionaires, and that, unlike Kamala Harris, she cares about everybody. More like the low class
Yeah.
and middle class.
I agree. That's what Democrats are all about. Kamala Harris, more specifically, here at this point in time, they are only caring for the people who are in middle and lower class. And unfortunately for Trump, he only cares for the people who are in the upper class. I mean, that's what it is. Now, TTV, like I said, you're one of the younger ones here, and I got to ask you,
Yep.
this is a very important election for you because despite the fact that you're not old enough, obviously, to vote, you are going to be a part of this country's future, obviously. And this election, this will definitely steer your future to either the wrong direction, or the direction for you and any other
Mm-hmm.
kids out there in the United States of America. With that being said, I mean, you know how important this election is.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, with that said, Pug, I'm going to go throw it at you right now. Is there any other, well, actually, let's be a little bit more specific. What is it about Trump that you are not a fan of?
I guess really just his like ideas on economics, which I guess we should talk about that real quick because I think that a lot of people don't know about his plans. So for those who don't know, Trump wants to put tariffs on foreign imports and more than anything Chinese foreign imports. But the problem with that is that whenever a company, so if you put a tariff on imports, like Chinese imports, when a company buys the Chinese imports, they have to pay those tariffs on the imports. And
And
that
that's a
means
very good
that
point.
and that means that the producer that's buying those products has to pay more for them, which means they have to charge other companies or producers more, which is just eventually gets back to, increasing the price, which is just going to make it all worse.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you can hear that in the background, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, TTV is putting that right in the text. It's text to speech here on Xbox, and you heard it. Donald Trump basically saying they were eating, quote, the dogs and they were eating the cats. And this is a comment that was made by Donald Trump himself, according to what he was saying, that illegal immigrants, more specifically people from Haiti, were actually coming in the United States and eating our dogs and cats, which clearly later was deemed to be untrue. But I want to go back to what you were saying, Pug, and that's a very good point there that you made, a very, very critical point that you just made. A lot of people think that tariffs are going to help us out, but it's not. And yeah, it's unbelievable. Point is, though, Pug, of course, going back to the question at hand, tariffs. For one reason or another, Mr. Trump actually believes that tariffs are going to be the reason that's going to get out of this. That's going to get us out of this predicament that we're in with the economy. Yet he does not realize, or maybe he does. I'm not quite sure. Maybe he's just ignorant about this. Nonetheless, it will indeed cause inflation.
Yeah, and also the zero taxes that everyone's so I guess very adamant about him doing, right? Everyone's talking about how good the no taxes will be. But I think that's kind of the basis of what our country's been built on is taxes. And you can't really take
Yes.
that away. I mean, yeah, it sounds nice, right, not having to pay taxes, but ultimately it's what keeps us safe and it's what, helps us fund the roads that gets us to work and all this other stuff and
Right.
provides for our military. In times of all these wars, we need to make sure we have a very strong military. And I just think it's not as good of an idea as everyone's making it out to be.
I agree. I mean, I have to agree with you, and a lot of people are not really thinking about that. You're absolutely right. Taxes are definitely used for what reason? To help the community out. I mean, obviously, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to all that, that is used to rebuild roads, as you said, schools, and so forth. Taxes are heavily important here in the United States, and also keep in mind that keep in mind, I was gonna I was gonna say real quick, and I agree with that 100%. But I was gonna say real quick, for instance, I mean, Canada doesn't have taxes as much, right? Unfortunately, though, the when it comes to the medical side of things, the taxes are incredibly high for the people, or excuse me, their bills for medical instances. But I want to go back to tariffs because people are always confused. It seems like I'm not quite sure. People have talked about it. How did tariffs actually cause for inflation? First, we need to make this clear. Okay, so tariffs, they're taxes, all right, on imported goods, all right, that make them more expensive. At the end of the day, that's just how it's going to be. So companies, they're going to often raise prices to cover these extra costs, and for the most part, Trump doesn't understand that. And as prices, there we go. Yeah, man, and I'm gonna say as prices rise on many different items, okay, guess what's gonna happen? What does that mean when prices rise? It causes inflation. which means that people have to spend more money to buy the same things, and we're going to see ourselves back to square one, and yet no one is going to talk about that. Of course, I think a lot of people aren't really looking at it that way. Unfortunately, I think they're just basically just listening to the puppeteer and just listening in and just believing everything that comes out of his mouth. Is Kamala Harris perfect? Absolutely not. But then again, who is? Think about that. Kamala Harris is the better choice than Donald Trump for many different reasons. Many different reasons. But Donald Trump is a felon. Donald Trump has been a man who has spread the idea, he has spread the notion that it's okay that if you're rich, that if you have a lot of power within you, then you can treat women with disgust. You can treat women the way you want them to be treated. You can treat women in their minds the way you think they should be treated, in their sick minds, that is. And the bottom line is here, Pug, is that I truly believe at the end of the day, Trump is a man that is very much dangerous to our democracy. Here's a man that also said that he would be willing to be dictator on day one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest Kamala advocator, right? I'm not gonna go to any Kamala like rallies or post videos about or like nothing like that. But I think she is the better choice. I think Trump's definitely made some comments that I probably wouldn't want him to lead my country.
Right.
But I think one thing we also need to talk about is that even if someone doesn't have the same political opinion as you, that doesn't make them any lesser of a person or any
Right.
less intelligent or anything like that. Like I think there's definitely Trump supporters that are probably a lot smarter than me and probably have really, really good arguments for Trump. But fortunately they're not here. But I mean I think it's just almost silly to look at someone who votes differently and be like they're dumb.
I agree with that 100%. It's always going to be important to always look at the opposition and never think of them completely 100% as ignorant people, unless if they're making it obvious that they're ignorant. Unfortunately, there's a lot of times that people will say ignorant comments, and that just kind of goes downhill from there. But I do want to agree with you on one point, and that's a very important to make. And it's a very important point to make. The fact is, you always have to make sure that you're able to really look at it from both sides, from two different perspectives, try to gain something out of it, and try to meet in the middle. Unfortunately for Trump, though, it doesn't work for him. It's either it's Trump's way or it's not. And
His way
if
or the
it's
highway.
not exactly, if it's not Trump's way, then good luck, because the man himself is going to do what he can to make sure it comes his way, that it actually does successfully happen. And the man is just a demented psychopath. Again, he is the man behind the Capitol attacks back on January 6th of 2021. He's incited a lot of violence and so forth. So bottom line is, the man is violent. He's a felon. He's done so many horrible, disgusting acts to women. And we understand that also that he is a racist. A lot of people say, name one racist thing he's done. You can't. Well, actually, yes, you can. I mean, back then, whenever he was running his Trump hotels, Trump towers, whatever you want to call it, there was a black woman or a black male. I don't remember who, but you can look it up for more verification. But there was a black individual that came in and asked to stay at a room. And they said, oh, we're sorry, we forgot to take off the sign that stated that there were rooms available. And yet, here comes a white individual that came in, and yet that white individual was able to be accommodated accordingly with the rooms and such. Think about that for a second. So this is coming from Trump himself. Nonetheless, bottom line is this here. Next week, Tuesday, Election Day, it's November 4th of 2024. It's going to be the most controversial day of the year. And Pug, before we get off here, we want Kamala Harris to win. How confident are you, though, in believing that could happen?
I would say I'm a 7 out of 10 confidence. I don't think she's got it in the bag, but do I see her winning? Yeah, but do I see a reality where Trump wins? I do also see that happening. Like I wouldn't be super shocked if that happens.
TTV also believes that it's time for Kamala Harris to step in. I believe as well. We'll check next week, guys. The next time we see you live in the EO Network podcast, we're either going to be gleeful about the win of Kamala Harris, or we're going to be just nothing more but headless chickens running around and completely mad, and also just completely frightened over what could happen in the future of this country with that madman running things in the office. Hey, listen, before we get off, though, again, thanks for joining us, everybody. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And again, everybody, check the news next Tuesday. Most important day in the United States. And really the world history. Not only the United States, but the president obviously does have an impact to the world. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Good night. And for Pug, TTV, and everyone else here part of the Network Podcast, I'm Adrian Matt. We'll catch you next week.